Education is, as I said, has been one of the best things I ever done. I work in the office down there, and I try to get veterans to come down and talk to me. Once I get them in there, and they know they're talking to somebody who's already been there, I seem to be able to pull their stories out. And as Stefan said, sometimes I can't shut them up. But I also go to functions like this from time to time, and I'll sit down next to somebody or meet somebody before the thing starts. Well, my father was in the service. Well, where did he serve? Well, as far as I know, he served in Europe. Well, do you have any record of what he did? And he was, no, we can't find any of that stuff. Well, that's sad. It really is, that all those things have been lost. So we're trying our best to put all this on film and on record and preserve it for future generations. We also have a trailer that we've built, I'm sorry, I hope the bell doesn't ring, that we're taking around to the schools here in Denver. We have about 36 schools lined up that want to see this thing. We're going to put volunteer veterans in the trailer and teach them, or at least show them what World War II is all about. We're doing World War II right now, and then once we lose all those guys, we're going to try to go to the Korean people and the Vietnam people. You're welcome to question me later on out there at the door, if you will. If you have any questions, please do so. And thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Jim. I'd like to now bring up Sergeant Bill Brunger, United States Army, 75th Infantry Division. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge. He feels the Battle of the Bulge. I dare say, Bill, you've felt it today, I'm sure. On medication due to frostbite, fingertips, toes. One of the teddy bears, though. I love Jim. I love Bill. So many of these men become your friends, you hope, for the rest of your life. Alsace-Lorraine, Central Germany as well. Please welcome Sergeant Bill Brunger, United States Army.
Well, I'll just give you a little history of where I served in Europe. I got over there when the war was supposedly almost over, and then the Germans decided they'd give it one last shot, and they started what is called the Battle of the Ardennes, or commonly known as the Battle of the Bulge. It was the biggest fight that the U.S. Army has ever been in, probably ever will be in. There were over 500,000 Germans against over 500,000 Americans, with some British in with us. The battle lasted for about 35 days. The temperature, it was the coldest winter in Belgium in over 100 years. The temperature was roughly from 10 above to 10 below most of that time. We were in there without any winter clothing of any kind. No shoes. We had regular garrison shoes. Everybody that fought in the Battle of the Bulge received frozen hands, feet, or other extremities of their body, legs, and so forth. There were about 81,000 casualties in the Battle of the Bulge. There were 19,000 killed in action, 23,000 missing in action. Now that part of that was ones that were captured. The others were missing in action, and they're still looking for them over there. There's still 78,000 missing in action in Europe. My company went into combat with 186 men. After 30-some days, we came out with 20 of us. And we were lucky. Some of them didn't have that many. From there, I went to Alsace-Lorraine, fought with the French Army, and finished that up. And from there, went to Holland, fought with the British Second Army in Holland. And then I went back to the American Ninth Army and fought with them until the end of the war. I was an infantry platoon sergeant, and fortunately, through all of that, I never got wounded. I'm thankful every day that I came through it as good as I did. I got acquainted with the foundation a couple of years ago. My wife and I saw what they were doing, and we both decided to volunteer with them. One of the most memorable trips I ever took was in May of 2007 when they took us back to Europe. There were about 23 guys. We went to England for the 8th Air Force guys to see where they had been. Then we went over to Normandy. From Normandy, we went on through France and into the Battle of the Bulge area. And it's what a joy it is to be with those guys. One of my jobs and Jim's jobs was to call the guys up and see if they wanted to go on a trip. And invariably they would say, well, I would say 80% of them would say, well, I don't want to talk about it. I maybe would want to go on a trip, but I don't think so. 25, 30 minutes later, we're still on the phone. They're still talking about it. And one of the first trips I took was to Washington, D.C. Stefan was there, Jim Blaine was there, Tim was there. We left Denver with about a little over 20 guys. I forget the exact number. But we get on the plane, and we're pretty much all strangers. And on the plane, a lot of them just sat there. These are the guys that aren't going to talk to anybody. They just sat there. And when we got to Washington, D.C. and had our first meal in the hotel, we had a little separate place there in the hotel. And after dinner, there were 2 guys sitting here, 3 there, a couple more here and 4 here. And maybe one guy's talking, the other guys are listening. And as the weekend wore on, you saw more smiling, you saw some crying. But as the weekend went on, these guys all ended up talking to each other. And one of them was with the original Band of Brothers. I don't know if you've seen that on TV or not, but he lives here in Lakewood. He was a school teacher after the war, and some of his students, when the World War II memorial was finished, some of his students offered to take him and pay his way. And he says, I really appreciate the offer, but I don't want to go back there unless I go with GIs from World War II. And that, I'll never forget on the plane home, here's all these guys. All of them got a smile on their face. They're all friends today. And it's just one, you can't believe the great things that the foundation is doing for these guys. Thank you.
All right, we made it through with no bell. Guys, great job. Derek, are we still on schedule? I think so. Again, $500 to Washington, D.C., $3,000 to Europe, $4,500 to the Pacific. We had a chance to go to Australia, our most recent international trip, a couple of months ago, for Anzac Day with these great Colorado World War II veterans. If our country could only show the respect in total that Australia did, I think every veteran in this room and in our state and in our country would feel the deep gratitude of a nation. We realize it's a tough economy. We realize what it's like to be asked for money. Hey, we need help. Yes, we're a 501c3, you can write this off. Can your company help? Can you help individually? Getting these stories documented and bringing a smile to a veteran who may have for decades not wanted to talk about it, may go to his grave without talking about it. Personally, I know it is a wise investment, not only for today,